I think based on where Yahoo was in the last year, it was an inevitable outcome that it was to be sold. The fact that it was sold to Verizon in some ways is very logical. They own AOL, and there's probably a good consolidation opportunity to look at the properties that AOL has and the ones that Yahoo has, which ones overlap, cut some costs. So I can see the business logic behind it.
Why was it inevitable?
I think it was inevitable because the core issue at Yahoo is that no administration that's been running it, including the one Jerry and I were in place, has been able to solve, is what the core distinction is in consumers' mind of what makes Yahoo great. And in my mind, it was all about content. With Yahoo today, they're still struggling with what their core identity is because they didn't get really great in the thing that they had a core identity in, and they got sort of mediocre in everything because they were spread so broadly. So I think by the time the last year came along, it needed to be sold. I sort of wish it had been sold to a company that was more. I don't know what Verizon will do. I hope they revitalize that key spirit and make it unique again, but who knows.
Would there have been a perfect buyer from your point of view?
I think either way it should have been, it needed to become private or semi-private. By being in Verizon, even though Verizon's a public company, it's a small part, and so they'll be able to take the steps that are hard and long-term in nature that couldn't have been taken when it was a public company because of all the media scrutiny. Mm-hmm. So whether it was a private buyer or whether it becomes a subsidiary of a public company, I think this is a good home in the sense that I think they can probably make some tough decisions and try to revitalize it.
Was some of the media scrutiny unfair on Marissa Mayer, do you think?
Probably, yeah. I think she was dealt a tough hand. I think, and I would say really, some of the seeds of the challenges at Yahoo were sown very early in its years. I mean, so I think when you inherit a company that's already operating in certain ways, it isn't easy to change it. I think there's certain things she probably wished she did differently, just like all of us probably wish we did certain things differently. But I think she did the best she could, and unfortunately, it wasn't enough.
What about the hacks that seem to have come, the disclosures, much later in the day than they actually occurred? How much do you think that might affect the price point with Verizon? How much do you think Marissa Mayer and the people at the helm of Yahoo should be taking responsibility for that sort of occurrence?
Well, I don't know how it'll affect the price, if at all. I think it's certainly possible that there could be a renegotiation to some degree. I don't think it will stop the deal from going through. And sure, I think that the leadership of the company should always take responsibility when something goes awry on their watch, even if whatever happened had seeds in a previous administration. I don't know I don't know anything about the background of that, but yeah, it's the right thing to do to step up when you're leading a company.
When you sort of look back on where Yahoo went, do you think they were correct to sort of get into Alibaba, a Chinese company, look at for value abroad in the way that they seem to?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think if you look at the original stake in Alibaba that we struck in 2005, that would be worth $70 a Yahoo share today. So if you look at it was sold over the years in pieces. So today it's worth considerably less than that, but still it was the single biggest value creator in Yahoo's history. So I feel like it's a sad sunset for this company. It makes me really we all had a great love for Yahoo. We bled purple. We wish it were different, but I think it did innovate in many ways and did create some great value. And there's some wonderful leaders who are all over the valley now who cut their chops there.
Are there any other companies out there at the moment that you think are excelling, or perhaps that you're worried about that need to be looking at their strategy here within the valley?
I think that we're in an unusual situation here for Silicon Valley. We touched on it earlier, but you have companies like Apple, Google, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft in the top 10 in market cap in the world. So when you think about top companies in the S&P 500, Silicon Valley and north to Seattle are a big part of that. So it's very important that this relationship with Washington gets resolved in an effective way.
A man who's spoken about the way in which the pie is divided is Warren Buffett, a man you work alongside at Berkshire Hathaway, and a company of significant scale and value in and of itself as well. It seems to be sitting on quite a significant cash load at the moment. Is this something that you see being returned to investors at any point?
I would say it's possible. I don't think there's any pressure in the next several years to be returning that cash. I think one of the things that's so remarkable about Berkshire Hathaway is it is a collection of businesses that generate a lot of cash, and many of them generate more than they need, and others are quite capital intensive, like the railroad businesses. So you have insurance and other consumer businesses that generate cash, and a tax-free, efficient way to reallocate that cash to businesses that need them. And that's been a wonderful model. So, but it isn't a model that's even every year. You know, a major acquisition could come up, and it's good to have the resources on the balance sheet to be ready for that kind of acquisition coming up. So that I don't see, as long as the core capital allocation proposition is working for investors, taking capital that's not productive and putting it into highly productive uses at a value-creating way, I think investors will be tolerant of short periods of time where the cash builds up before the next big deal.